massive chandelier above. 200 guests fell silent as Preston Harwick commanded the room with the same authority he'd wielded over his business empire for 40 years. He looked directly at me, and I knew something terrible was coming. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue this celebration, I have an announcement about my legacy," he said, his voice carrying that familiar edge of cruelty I'd known since childhood. "As you know, I'm retiring from Harwick Industries, and it's time to pass the torch to the next generation." The room buzzed with anticipation. My brothers, Roderick and Sterling, straightened their shoulders, already savoring their triumph. They stood near the grand staircase like princes awaiting their coronation, their wives glittering with diamonds beside them. "To my eldest son, Roderick," my father continued, gesturing toward my brother who stepped forward with a practiced smile, "I leave the manufacturing division, the estates in Connecticut and Palm Beach, the yacht fleet, and $18 million in liquid assets. You've earned every penny by standing beside me for 15 years. Applause erupted. Roderick raised his own glass, his smile widening as board members and investors nodded their approval. His wife, Camilla, kissed his cheek for the cameras that were documenting this grand moment. To Sterling, my second son, Preston's voice boomed with pride, goes the European operations, our international holdings, the Manhattan penthouse, the art collection valued at $12 million and another $18 million in cash. Your vision for global expansion has proven invaluable." More applause. Sterling gave a mock bow, soaking in the admiration while his wife whispered something in his ear that made him grin even wider. I stood in the back corner, my stomach turning to lead, knowing what was coming but hoping I was wrong. "And now," my father said, his voice changing, becoming sharper, colder, "we come to my youngest son, Deacon." Every eye in the room turned to find me. I felt their stares like needles, some curious, others already glinting with the anticipation of blood in the water. Preston walked closer to where I stood, each step deliberate, theatrical. Deacon, who rejected the family business to play doctor to barn animals. Deacon, who threw away every opportunity I gave him to chase some childish dream of saving strays and livestock. He paused, savoring the moment. Deacon, who chose poverty over prosperity, sentiment over success. The room had gone completely silent. Even the waitstaff had frozen in place, silver trays balanced perfectly still. "To you, Deacon, I leave exactly what you've contributed to this family's legacy." He raised his glass higher. "Nothing, not a single penny, not a property, not even a seat on the board you rejected 10 years ago. You were never worthy of the Harwick name, and tonight, everyone here bears witness to that truth." The silence lasted 3 heartbeats. Then someone started clapping. Just one person at first, then another. Then the entire room erupted in applause, as if they'd just witnessed a brilliant performance. My father's business partners laughed openly. My brothers clinked their glasses together in celebration. Even my Aunt Meredith, who'd always been kind to me at family gatherings, looked away when I caught her eye. "A toast," Preston called out, his voice triumphant, "to those who build legacies and to those who learn the price of walking away from greatness." "To legacies," the crowd roared back, champagne glasses rising in unison. I turned and walked toward the door, my legs steady despite the earthquake in my chest. Behind me, I heard Roderick's voice carrying over the celebration. "Should have listened to Dad, little brother. Hope those mutts keep you warm at night." Then, Sterling's laughter. "At least he's consistent, always choosing the losing side." The marble floor of the entrance hall echoed under my feet. My hand reached for the massive oak door when I heard someone calling my name. Not shouting, just speaking urgently, quietly. "Deacon, wait, please, just one moment." I turned to see Walter Grimsby, my family's lawyer for the past 40 years. His face looked different from the crowd inside, marked with something I couldn't quite place. Sympathy? Guilt? He glanced over his shoulder to make sure we were alone, then reached into his jacket pocket. "Your mother, Vivian," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. She knew this day would come. She prepared for it 20 years ago before she died. He pulled out a manila envelope, thick with documents, sealed with burgundy wax bearing my mother's initials, VBH. Vivian Brennan Harwick. My hands felt numb as he pressed it into them. She made me swear on my life, Deacon, on my life and my children's lives, that I would give this to you tonight, on your father's 70th birthday. Not a day before, not a day after. Tonight? His weathered hands trembled slightly. I've carried this burden for 20 years, and now it's yours. Walter, what is this? The truth, he said simply. Everything your mother wanted you to know when the time was right, when you could handle it, when you would need it most. He squeezed my shoulder, his eyes filled with an old sadness. Don't open it here. Go somewhere safe. And Deacon, whatever you decide to do after you read it, know that your mother loved you more than life itself. Before I could respond, he turned and walked back toward the party, leaving me standing in the doorway holding an envelope that suddenly felt as heavy as the world. Through the windows, I could see my father laughing with his guests, my brothers posing for photos with their wives, everyone celebrating the destruction of my place in the family. My mother had been dead for 20 years, taken by cancer when I was just 12 years old. She'd been the only person in that mansion who'd ever shown me genuine love, who'd encouraged my dreams of becoming a veterinarian, who told me that kindness was a strength, not a weakness. Now, 2 decades after her death, she was reaching out from beyond the grave on the very night my father had publicly disowned me. I walked to my truck, the envelope burning in my hands. The sound of laughter and music from the party followed me into the night. As I sat in the driver's seat, I could see the warm glow of the mansion's windows, could imagine my brothers already planning how to spend their millions while my father basked in his final victory over the son who dared to choose his own path. But I had something they didn't know about, a message from the only parent who'd ever truly loved me. My fingers traced the wax seal, feeling the indentation of my mother's initials, and I wondered what truth could possibly matter after 20 years of silence. The first line of her letter would change everything, but in that moment, sitting in the dark outside my father's mansion, I was just a rejected son, holding the last words of a mother I'd barely had time to know. 3 weeks before that nightmare of a birthday party, I was performing emergency surgery on a golden retriever who'd been hit by a truck. The dog's owner, a single mother named Janet, sat in my waiting room with her 2 kids, crying because she couldn't afford the full procedure. I told her we'd work out a payment plan, maybe $20 a month, whatever she could manage. That's who I am. That's the life I chose, and despite what my father thinks, I've never regretted it for a second. My veterinary clinic sits on 5 acres just outside Denver, Colorado, about as far from my family's Connecticut estate as I could get without leaving the country. I bought the property 6 years ago using the small trust fund my mother had set up for me before she died. It wasn't much, maybe $70,000, but it was enough for a down payment. Everything else I built myself, one patient at a time, one 16-hour day after another. The morning the invitation arrived, I was castrating a stallion at the Morrison Ranch. My assistant, Beth, drove out to the field waving an envelope like it was on fire. "This just came by courier," she said. "Guy in a suit driving a Mercedes. Said he had to deliver it personally." The envelope was everything my father represented. Expensive, ostentatious, and cold. Ivory cardstock so thick you could cut yourself on it. His initials embossed in gold, the kind of thing that probably cost more than most people's weekly groceries. Inside, the message was brief and commanding. "Your presence is required at Preston Harwick's 70th birthday celebration. Black tie, no exceptions. Family duty demands attendance." Family duty? I almost laughed at that. Where was family duty when I graduated from veterinary school and my father refused to attend because I was wasting my potential? Where was it when I opened my clinic and he told everyone at the country club